Quick review on factoring. Obviously, we've got 4 terms, so you should use the box method to do this. This was one of them that was on the assessment that we had yesterday. Those of you that were here yesterday and finished the assessment, the grade has been posted. I'm not going to hand it back. The grade has been posted. I'll let you look at it on Monday if you want to look at it. Look at it on Monday. I've got several people that need to take it. It's a reminder on Tuesday of next week. Tuesday of next week is a catch-up day in here. So if you have any missing assessments, you will be taking those missing assessments on that day. And you hand them and say you're doing it. So you need to make sure you're looking through to see what assessments you have missing. So you can take a little bit of time this weekend to find out. Probably should study a little bit on them. The review videos will be posted and whenever they were taken, so you can go back, watch the review videos, and all those things are sitting there. Some of you are pretty close. We have a clock now. I don't know what time it is now. Well, welcome. How are you? Good. Oh, it went away. Get some of you started in case you haven't. Further hint. Now look for GCS. About another minute or so. I think it even has a countdown time. We could even say we've got a minute left. Let's see. Last week. Can't say that burn it in. Look at that. All fancy. All right. So we're going to go this way. Find a GCF for 35 and 15. That's 5 for n cubed and n squared. It's n squared. And we're going to go GCF this way. It's negative because the 42 is negative. GCF for 42, 6. So negative 6. Now you can do the GCFs going the other direction now. So you can do the GCFs going that direction, or you can just think 5 times what is 35? 5 times 7 is 35. N squared times n is n cubed. 5 times what is 15? 3. There it is. So 5n squared minus 6. 7n plus 3. It's a little review on factoring. Factoring's not going to go away like the rest of the year. So we've got to get kind of this factoring thing down and taken care of. So today, the main topic for today is we are moving on to Unit 2B. Unit 2B really becomes about solving quadratics. So we've looked at the different quadratics. We graphed quadratics. We factored quadratics. the next part of the unit now is to go ahead and solve those quadratics. So set them equal to 0. Everything we've had up to this point when we were factoring was just an expression. That's just an expression. It doesn't have an equal sign. Okay, so now we're going to work on solving quadratics, and we're going to solve quadratics using 3 different methods. We're going to use the square root method today. Monday, we're going to talk about factoring, which we've already done, but now we're going to factoring to solve them. And then Tuesday is obviously our review day. And then we've got the quadratic formula and all of that to do after Thanksgiving break to kind of hopefully get most of the way through Unit 2B we should get through 2B by the end of, before Christmas. I hope, anyway. All right, so just to review, we're talking about square root and the square root method. If I want to simplify the square root of 24, if I want to find the square root of 24, it's not a perfect square. So because it's not a perfect square, then we're going to use essentially the factor tree. So we need 2 numbers that multiply to be 24. It doesn't matter which ones you pick. I'm just going to pick 4 times 6. 4 times 6 is 24. Now we have to look at both the 4 and the 6. 4 is not prime. It's 2 times 2. 6 is not prime. It's 2 times 3. Now 2, 2, 3, and 3, we look at them, but they're prime. So we can't factor out them anymore. So if you remember, we look for groupings of 2. So that's a grouping of 2. So the 2 can come outside. The 2 and the 3 don't have a grouping, so we just multiply them back together. So if we simplify radical 24, the solution to that is 2 radical 6. Okay. Go ahead and simplify the square root of 40 using that method. Again, we did this early in the year, just kind of reviewing, remembering it. Because obviously we're solving using the square root. We're going to have to do this a lot today. Forty is 4 times 10. 4 is 2 times 2. 10 is 2 times 5. There's your partner. Come out. 2 times 5. There's no partners with them. Just multiply them back together. There's your solution. 2 radical 10. Okay. And that's your solution, and there's nothing left to do with it. We don't put decimals in. We don't do anything like that. We leave everything in what we call radical form. So now what we want to be able to do, now that we've reviewed simplifying it, is we want to be able to solve an equation using this. So something like x squared equals 25, where we want to know what the value is of x. Well, so we're solving an equation. So anytime you're solving an equation, first thing you have to do when you're solving an equation is get rid of any addition or subtraction that's done to your variable. There's no addition or subtraction done to our variable, so that's done. Second thing you have to do is get rid of any multiplication or division to your variable. There's none of that. And next thing you have to do is you have to get rid of any roots. So this is to the second power. So how do we get rid of a square? Squaring something? Take its square root. Okay, you get rid of squaring something by taking its square root. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared, these essentially cancel each other out. You're leaving yourself with x. Now this is going to equal, because we're solving equations now, we want to find the value of x that makes this a true statement. So because we're taking the square root of this, Now we're going to have two solutions to this. It's going to be both the positive and negative square root of 25. So there's two solutions. The square root of 25 is 5, so x could be either of those. X could equal 5, or x could equal negative 5. Anytime you're solving an equation and you take the square root, this positive or negative needs to be there, because ultimately we're looking for a solution to our original problem. And if we have x squared equals 25, if I take 5 and square it, 5 times 5 is 25. That's 5 times 5. That equals 25. So that checks out. But also, if I take negative 5 and square it, negative 5 times negative 5, a negative times a negative is a positive. That also works. So a lot of the time, not all the time, you're going to have two solutions when you're solving quadratics. There'll be some times when you just get one. Sometimes when you get complex ones, but we'll talk about complex ones later. But you have to put that positive and negative in there anytime you're solving equations to find the value of x. Okay, so let's look at this next one using the square root method. Okay, so again, we're going to solve by using the square root method. So we locate our variable. Our variable's on the left-hand side. We have 2 times our variable squared plus 8. Anytime you're solving equations, doesn't matter if it looks like this or more complex than this, you have to get rid of any addition or subtraction done to the variable first. So because 8 was added to our variable, we need to subtract 8 from both sides. 2x squared plus 8 minus 8 is just 2x squared. 50 minus 8 is 50. Next thing we need to do is we need to get rid of any multiplication or division that's done to our variable. We have 2 being multiplied by our variable, so we get rid of multiplication by dividing. So we divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so that just leaves us with x squared. 50 divided by 2 is 25. Now we take the square root of both sides. Take the square root of both sides. So x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 25. And we just did this. It's plus or minus 5. And this is an acceptable way to write it. You don't have to put x equals 5 or x equals negative 5. You don't need to do that. Okay? Questions with that one? Okay. So we've got 81x squared plus 4 equals 8. We'll do this one together because what's going to happen? We'll do this one together to show you can do these. What am I going to do first? What's first? Divide by 81. Take the square root. Subtract 4. Get rid of any addition or subtraction to our variable first. So we're going to subtract 4. When I subtract 4, I get 81x squared is equal to 4. Divide by 81. So we have x squared equals 4 over 81. Next step, take the square root. We take the square root of both sides. So x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 4 over 81. So now we got to remember what we did when we had fractions that were underneath radical. First thing we look for is we look for perfect squares. We have a perfect square in both the numerator and the denominator. That's a good thing. So because we've got that in both the numerator and the denominator, I can rewrite this as plus or minus the square root of 4 over the square root of 81. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 81 is 9. There's my solution. Positive or negative 1/2. I'm sorry, positive or negative 2/9. Where 1/2 came from, I have zero idea where that would even come from. Okay, but again, it goes back to, okay, now I got to review how do we do fractions. Remember when you're doing square root of fractions, look for perfect squares first, and then look to reduce. Okay, square root, perfect squares first, and then if there's no perfect squares, or maybe one perfect square, see if it can be reduced, and then reduce the fraction as needed. Okay. Next one. A little bit more complicated, but not too bad. So you've got negative 9 minus 10m squared equals negative 989. Why don't you go ahead and give it a shot? Let's do it together. Because of it's a little complex. What do we want to do first? Hey, am I going to add 9 or subtract 9? Add. We're going to add 9 to both sides. So that leaves me negative 10m squared equals negative 980. Negative 989 plus 9 gives us negative 980. Divide by negative 10. That gives me m squared equals 98. Those cancel out, so it's 98. Take the square root of both sides. So m is equal to positive or negative square root of 98. 98 is not a perfect square. So because it's not a perfect square, we have to break it down. 2 times, if I just do it in a calculator, I think it's 2 times 49. Yep. 49 is 7 times 7. Well, that's good. So there's my partner. So m is equal to positive or negative 7 times the square root of 2. Odd answer, but it's an answer. Okay. And everything's not going to be nice and clean today. You're going to have these radicals that end up in there, and you guys can do these. This is one of our better tests for the year. And you guys were simplifying radicals. Just got to remember how to do it. Amazing how it all just kind of comes back. Try this one on your own. 3x squared minus 18 is equal to, let's go 36. Find the value of x that makes that work. This will be the last one we do, and you should be good to go for the day. It's a big day on my front. As you know, I'm a runner. I run every day. Today, when I run my mile today, will be the 7th year that I've run every single day at least 1 mile. 7 years in a row today. As soon as I go out and run a mile.
What day was when you hit 10,000? Or was it 15,000?
I hit 10,000 in the middle of beginning of October. 10,000 miles since I started this. Yeah, I think now I'm up to 10,200 and some. Yeah. It's getting harder. got a bad hamstring right now. Hurt my hamstring. The marathon I did about a month ago. And running every day sometimes doesn't make hamstrings better. And then it feels good. So I think, okay, I can go 5-6 miles. And then it doesn't feel good anymore. So that happened Sunday. I felt really good on Sunday. Everything had been going good. So I went out and did a 6-miler on Sunday. Yeah. Not the smartest thing I've done. But that's okay. I still get out the door every day. And it only has to be a mile. So it's not like it's that far. Add 18. 3x squared equals 54. Divided by 3, x squared equals 18. Is that what it is? 18. Take the square root of both sides. So x equals positive or negative square root of 18. 2 times 9. 3 times 3. So x is equal to positive or negative. There's my partner. 3 radical 2. So that's what you're going to do today. Your worksheet today is going to consist of 2 things. It's going to consist of solving quadratics using the square root method. I just wrote this on what we're doing next week. But then there's also going to be several problems reviewing factoring. So you'll have, I think, 8 questions that are on factoring and 8 questions that are on doing this. You don't have to solve by factoring, just factoring. Worksheet is right there. Yeah. Get yourself some.